Hey, Steph. How you doing? That's good. Oh, I'm hanging in there. Going to work, coming home from work, doing the thing. It's alright. Oh, pretty much. Trying not to turn to a skeleton too early. Anyways. Where were we? Let's play some games, shall we? Yeah, haul them boxes out to wherever we're going. Come on, Necrobarista. There you go. Come on, dude. Don't freeze on me here. I just restarted you. You have no excuse. Work. Alright, there we go. I think. Yep, there we are. That's the last one, I reckon. Does it have the magic caps in it? I think so. You can just call them caps, you know. They're built for something different. I refuse to use non-specific language. Uh-huh. Yeah, they're in here. Okay, what about the thing? You'll have to be a little more... Oh, you know, the thing. Sparky thing. Ashley likes having friends who can understand her even when she fails to be specific. It's true. Jackson is correct. You can't negotiate with technology. Electric. Sweetie, how long have you been awake? It's better if you don't know that, I think. You mean the voltage regulator? That's the one. Good job. It's in one of the other boxes. I don't think we need another one, though. Are you kidding? The last one literally melted. It's a good thing I have an extremely sick metal arm, or otherwise I would have been badly injured. I don't think I knew she had a metal arm before now. Ashley's prosthetic arm is a point of pride. She wouldn't trade it for anything, not even the arm that it replaced. Aw. Yeah, thank goodness. Is there anything missing? I shall check. Need some espresso? I think I would literally die if I have any more. Hey, that's really mature of you. Nice job. Yeah, whatever. You can get me some chocolate if you want. Don't tell Ashley that chocolate has trace amounts of caffeine. At least it's not more espresso. Sure thing. Be back in a moment. Oh, hey, dude. Where you been? Hey, just chilling. Not much to do when you're waiting to die. Hey, come on, Cooper. I know you're hiding down here, there somewhere. Hold this, will ya? Did Ned really say that? Yeah. Do you believe it? I'm not sure. Well, it's not a lie. The most dangerous lies are the lies we tell ourselves. But it's not the whole truth either. And I don't quite have the time to untangle it for you. Maddie's the sort of person to weave tangled webs without too much consideration for who's going to have to untangle them. I've got a hungry teenager downstairs and a summoning ritual to complete. Ah, she's part of this too? Don't you take that judgy tone with me. Hey, far be it from me to moralize at you. Getting a lot of that these days, mate. I'm just trying to keep everyone happy. Tough gig. I'll say. Slam. Steph, don't you know, it's when you want the technology to play nice that it behaves badly. Alright, now, if you can solder those two wires... No, not those ones. Bloody hell. Who programmed you? Bet she's a jerk. Incredibly intelligent, but a very bad programmer. Ashley has learned how to program exactly the minimum amount she needs to, and not one iota more. A true computer person. You're talking about yourself, right? Wah! Wow, you're really out of it, huh? Where did you even pull this from? Leg holster? You aren't wearing a leg holster. Arm holster. Your prosthetic? It holds 6 million knives. Don't question me on this. I'm the expert here. Mm-hmm. Hey, need a hand? Dude, you should check yourself before you fucking wreck yourself. No, that's not what I meant. Oh. Yeah, I guess you can help. Before I ask what you need, what are you even doing? Maddie mentioned a summoning circle? Something like that. You ever wanted to live forever? I'd trade that for just having a second chance, honestly. Well, grab me that box, please. You can't just leave that hanging like that. Watch me. And while you watch me leave you hanging, you can go get that box. Thank you. Yeah, so, this is really heavy. What's even in here? 100 meters of heavy gauge copper cable. In a basement full of magical items, this copper wire might be the thing most in danger of being stolen. It's easier to flip, at least. A bunch of capacitors that I'm going to wire together soon, and some various bits and bobs. That would definitely explain the weight. Oh, there's also a bunch of clamps. So what do you need? Validation. Chocolate. Coffee. Oops. Oh, I can go back. Interesting. A school system that doesn't punish me for having weird and niche interests. I meant more, communism. Ashley is a real party girl. I don't think I can get you communism, sorry. And isn't Maddie already getting you chocolate? You're a terrible comrade, Kishan. If I wasn't close to hitting the LD50 of caffeine, I'd ask you for some coffee. So all you can do right now is give me that sweet validation. Okay. Your real thumbs up? Good human. I don't know what sort of validation you want here. I feel like I'm stuck in a loop of trying things that are inevitably going to fail, and I don't know how much of it is my fault for not being good enough at a monumentally difficult task. I'm used to being effortlessly good at things, but I feel like my brain is full of bees on this one. Can I deal with failure? I don't think I can. I am not equipped for failure. My entire perception of myself is that I'm good at things. I'm gifted and talented and incredibly afraid that I'm going to let people down at a vital moment. This is that vital moment. But I just sit here, paralyzed. And I rationally know that a lot of this pressure is just me being hard on myself. But Maddie and we tried this already. And we failed pretty badly. It was a disaster. For Ashley, of all people, to call something a disaster, it must have been a real catastrophe. I can't understate how badly it turned out. So even with all the prep I'm doing, is this enough? Did we learn enough to do it properly? Numbers and formulas and hard science are good, but I can't shake this feeling that I'm going to screw it up for everyone. And I'm so afraid of letting Maddie down. There are a few things we fear more than disappointing the people we love most. That's heavy as shit, mate. You reckon? Fully, yeah. I don't know what to say to that, except that I don't think Maddie would ever feel let down by you. I know I've only been here for like 2 days, but her and Che seem to really care about you, and I'm sure that extends to accepting you for who you are, limitations and all. Though honestly, I think you give off a pretty strong vibe of not giving a shit about your limitations, or that you indiscriminately power through them with some sort of raw, caffeine-fueled fury. Anyways, you're immensely powerful, and I'm terrified of you. Fair enough. I was never really super smart or gifted or anything. Sometimes the people who think they're not gifted were just never made aware of their gifts. I just floated through school and work and never focused on much except having a good time. I can definitely imagine the sort of pressure you'd have on you, though, especially given how big this task is. Yeah. So while I can't say for sure that this thing is going to be easy or even successful, in the terminal, it can feel like nothing is easy. Even Sunday mornings come with their own set of trials and tribulations. I do think it's important that you work on giving yourself a break from the weight of your own expectations. But it's not an easy thing, I'm sure. But my boyfriend is similar. He's very hard on himself and he feels like he's letting himself down. So, it doesn't go away? I don't think so. I think it just gets easier to deal with as you learn to be more empathetic to yourself. Self-forgiveness and all that. It's often hardest to forgive someone when you're aware of all their flaws. It definitely took him a good few years to even be able to deal with his self-imposed shame. I guess I can try that? You can try that, or you can continue feeling super bad about yourself all the time. I mean, when you put it like that, right? I hate how rational you sound. I know. I'm disgusted at myself. Sup, nerds? What's going on in this thread? What? You're suddenly in a good mood. I maybe ate some of your chocolate. Maybe Maddie ate some chocolate. Maybe Maddie ate some chocolate. Maybe grass is green. Oh, I swear to God, if there isn't any left. Yes, we've been over this before. You'll comprehensively murderize me. You hate it if someone failed to be comprehensive when they went about murderizing you. I've seen some incomplete murderizing attempts, and they ain't pretty. Like this Ashley's. It's her own chocolate. Don't worry, I only ate a little bit. Excellent. Is this enchanted chocolate or just normal chocolate? What about unenchanted dark chocolate? Where does that fall in the normal abnormal chocolate spectrum? Does he deserve to know? I don't know. I kind of like the mystery. It's completely normal chocolate, isn't it? Maybe. Maybe not. Can I have some then? Come on, you owe me. For what? Helping you set all this up. Oh yeah, that's fair. Ooh, a corner. This is totally normal chocolate. Yeah. Did you expect it to not be that? Well, you implied. We never implied. You came up with that one all on your own. Damn it. Alright, I'm bored. Later, dorks. Don't you run off on me, miss. This Magic Hat Bank isn't even half done. I'll do it later. For now, I'm gonna take a nap under that table. If anyone disturbs me... Ellipses. Ellipses question mark? Come on. You'll be happy, confused, ticklish, extra hungry. I will mention me in your diary? Man, he doesn't keep a diary. All those thoughts and memories just stay cooped up in her head. One day she's gonna run out of space. Or sanity. I will exact terrible revenge on both of you later. Jeez, that phrase definitely doesn't start with an M. Bye. Roll away. Heh. I'm not being too hard on her, am I? You? Nah, she thinks you're great. Good. I could probably stand to give her a break, though. There are a few people who appreciate a break more than Ashley, especially when it's a break from Maddie. I mean, I'm expecting a lot from her right now. She does seem a little overloaded. Fuck. But you tell me if things were too much, right? I don't know. It seems like she idolizes you. Idolatry is a sin, isn't it? It can't be healthy behavior. I reckon she pretty happily burned herself out for you, you know? I just need her for the next 4 or 5 hours, then everything will be okay. Is that when you're planning on performing the ritual? This thing? Yeah. What's it for, anyways? Conduit ritual? Super forbidden magic. Oh, cool. Are you actually cool with this? Or not hugely, actually. Why is that? Well, you know, I was talking to Ned earlier, and actually, don't worry about it. It's fine. I don't care. What's it do? You know how I took a couple hours from you down here? Vividly. This is the bigger scale version of that spell. Higher capacity. Who are you taking hours from? Nobody. Don't worry, buddy. You're at a deficit already. When you get deep enough into the hole, you kind of stop worrying about climbing out of it and just accept your fate. I can't touch you. Right. Okay. So even if you're lying right now, shouldn't you have taken enough to pay off your debt multiple times at this point? Ha! The hours weren't for that. Or maybe it just felt like hours. It can be hard to judge time when you're wandering around aimlessly. What the hell did you do with them then? Where'd they go? For our research, we use the following materials. Wire copper, heavily drawn. Jasmine chalk, not Dover. Sustained electrical supply of at least 20 volts. Car battery, question mark? Capacitors composed of blank needs better durability. However, we believe extra components are required. Our conduit's properties varied with the layout of our summoning circle, and despite the departure of our test subject during our trials, we were able to ascertain a number of efficiency-oriented refinements. Certain kinds of optimization require a real dedication to craft, as well as the absolute necessity of a living but non-sentient vessel to act as a so-called storage container. More testing is required, though obtaining a willing subject for future methodology evaluations without attracting the attention of the council will be difficult to say the least. I stored them. All these hours are in this tree. Rainy moods. Ooh, the robots. I miss eating. Why? What was your diet like? I remember sushi. Sushi? I thought you said you were a crab. What, you think crabs aren't dexterous enough to make sushi? Unquestionably, yes. What is this sushi? It's delicious is what it is. Rice and fish and seaweed. Humans eat it. And crabs. I just don't know where a crab would find rice or a way to make good sushi. I also ate garbage. Yes, I also ate garbage on occasion. Unbelievable, you two. Unbelievable. Garbage is good for the soul. Garbage is garbage. It's in the name. Oh, this is good. What did you eat when you were alive then? Grass. Just normal grass. Boring. And tree roots sometimes. There are tree roots here, yes. Yes, there are. Why don't you chomp on them? Well, I'm not hungry. We don't eat. And also, more importantly, they are powerfully magical. Maddie needs them. And if we damage things that Maddie needs, then Ashley will be disappointed in us. A suboptimal state of affairs. I can feel the power in them too. However, I do not feel compelled to chomp on them. What a strange thought. Love to chomp sushi, chomp sandwiches, chomp garbage. You're so weird. Alright, where's it gonna spit us out next time? Make your creator proud. Next week, this man's experienced a side story, Devil's Den. Let me see. The back half of the game now. Oh, we're in that room that's upstairs. Okay. Something down under. Come on, I want to show you something. For a moment, Tuan thought of grabbing Hannah by the hand to lead her, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. Something about the idea of holding her hand seemed simultaneously too childish and too intimate for him to try this early in the night. "Oh, where are you taking me?" said Hannah. "Someplace cool," said Tuan. He located a ladder leading down from the lower level and gestured to it. "After you. And now you're asking me to be the first one to jump into the gaping maw of whatever monsters might be lurking down there." Hannah shook her head ruefully. "Where have all the gentlemen gone?" Tuan smirked. "I think a gentleman might say, 'Ladies first.' And I think a lady might say, 'I'll stand quietly behind you while you deal with this street ruffian.' Go ahead, barrel face first into danger. I'll follow behind." "Well," said Tuan, "technically I'm going feet first. You know, going down, vertically and all that. Verticality and all that. My head is actually the last part of me that will be arriving on the lower level. Are we going to keep standing here bantering, or are you going to show me whatever's down there?" said Hannah. "You seemed enthused by the idea only a few moments ago." "I guess I just got distracted by your cattiness." Hannah got on the ladder on top of Tuan. "Don't look up. Trust me, you won't get the show you're expecting if you do." "Fine." Tuan descended the ladder, keeping his gaze decidedly horizontal. After arriving on the level below, he studied his feet until Hannah landed beside him. Hannah joined him in studying his feet. "Oh, please don't tell me you're one of those freaks who's obsessed with his sneakers." "Nah," said Tuan. "Just the kind who finds the sight of his own shoelaces a safe distraction from whatever he's trying to avoid looking at." "Oh, good," said Hannah. "Did you hear about that brawl in Darwin?" "No," said Tuan. "Well, it was actually Darwin, California. You know, these international news sites always try to sucker me into reading stories about what's happening in America. Anyway, nobody was hospitalized, but several kids walked away from the store with black eyes to show to their friends. I can understand that collectibles are a big deal, but come on, we live in a society. I don't think I'll ever understand sneakerheads." "Wait, that's actually a thing?" said Tuan. "Yeah," said Hannah. "You didn't know about it? It's really big with hip youngsters." "I guess I don't pay very close attention to the behavior of hip youngsters." "Well, that was evident from the moment I laid eyes on you," said Hannah. "But you seem adventurous enough. Maybe one day you'll encounter one of them. On that note, what are we here to see?" Tuan led Hannah to one of the portholes of the room they were in. "Look at this." "Whoa, that is indeed a porthole." "No, I mean, what's on the other side?" "Yep," said Hannah, "that certainly is water on the other side of that porthole." "Hold on," said Tuan. "That's supposed to be, he trailed off. A what?" "I don't want to spoil the surprise," said Tuan. "Well, you have effectively replaced my awe and wonder of seeing the sea through a porthole in the basement of a Melbourne cafe with a feeling of disappointment that I'm not seeing whatever it is I'm supposed to be seeing." Tuan checked several of the other portholes. "This is weird. It's usually..." The sound of something landing behind them caused Tuan and Hannah to spin around and face the ladder they just climbed down. A girl with twin tails stood up from a crouching stance and dusted herself off. "Did you just jump down?" said Tuan. "Yep," said the girl. "It's only 10 meters. And to think we had wasted our time climbing down the ladder like schmucks," said Hannah. "So, Tuan said, gawking at the girl for a few moments. "Sorry, I don't remember your name." "I'm Ashley," said the girl. "I guess turnabout is fair play, because I don't remember your name either." "It's Tuan. And I'm Hannah. You two know each other?" Hannah said to Tuan as she pointed at Ashley. Yes, said Tuan. We know each other so well that we greet each other by asking each other what our names are. It's a great greeting ritual, said Hannah. We should try to popularize it. You know, normalize introducing yourself by name, even to people you've met before. I bet it would save some people from a lot of awkwardness. Not everyone is good with names, you know. That's a great idea, said Ashley. I'm going to start doing that. Hannah shot a glance at Tuan and he grinned. So, what are you doing down here, said Hannah. Here to kick us out? Is this a no patron zone? No, it's no problem, said the girl, but I was eavesdropping. Hannah's eyes widened and he looked at Hannah, but Hannah seemed to be more amused than upset at Ashley's appearance. And, said Ashley, it sounded like you weren't seeing what you wanted to be seeing, so I thought I'd come down here and take you lower. Oh, where am I being taken now, said Hannah. About 1,000 fathoms is where things start to get interesting, said Ashley. How much is 1,000 fathoms, said Hannah. Ashley paused. It's about 1,800 meters, said Tuan. Sounds like a lot of climbing, said Hannah. Guess I should have brought better ladder climbing shoes. That sounds like the lament of a non-sneakerhead, said Tuan. Oh, no need to climb, said Ashley. Just hang on a sec. Ashley walked up to a panel with several mechanical levers, and after several moments, the water outside the porthole began to change hue. What was that, said Hannah. Swordfish, said Ashley. Actually, I'm pretty sure it was a sailfish, said Tuan. I'm pretty sure you made that up, said Hannah. No, really, said Tuan. They're a marlin, and they have a long bill like a swordfish, but they also have a broad, erect dorsal fin. If you had left the word erect out of that sentence, I might have believed you, said Hannah. No, he's probably right, said Ashley. I've seen him down here with marine biology books. He's a huge nerd, so I definitely trust his word over mine. Well, I'm glad that's settled, said Hannah. The part about you being a nerd, I mean. I think the sailfish with an erect dorsal fin still sounds kind of sketchy to me. Eventually the room stopped descending and Hannah looked outside the porthole. Now I see what you were excited about. There's a lot of stuff going on down here. Hey, nerd boy, what's this one called? Tuan tried to follow Hannah's pointing finger. Which one are you pointing at? That shark-looking thing. It looks like it's as big as a whale. Oh, said Tuan, that's a whale shark. See, said Hannah, I knew you were just making up names. No, that one's right, said Ashley. That's one of the few ones I know, because it's so easy to remember. It's a cross between a whale and a shark. Whale shark. So, said Hannah, this is a level of the ocean where interspecies romance happens. There isn't actually any whale DNA in a whale shark, said Tuan. It just has that name because of its size. It's the largest known species of fish. Hannah shook her head. First it's a whale shark, then it's just a shark, now it's a fish. Tuan, the things you need to know about making stuff up is that you need to stick to one version of the story. Sharks are fish, said Tuan. You didn't know that? They have gills. I'm kind of surprised you didn't know that. I don't think you're the one who should be surprised by any of this, said Hannah. Everything that you've shown me down here is thoroughly weird. Me not knowing about sharks or fish? That seems very normal to me. Hey, Ashley, did you know that sharks are fish? Nope, said Ashley. This is my first time hearing it, too. Must be another made-up Tuan fact about marine biology, said Hannah. Tuan shrugged his shoulders. I guess so. The truth is that I'm just really creative and good at making up so-called facts. The part about me being a nerd who spends all his time studying marine biology must be a lie. No, I still believe that part, said Hannah. Me too, said Ashley. The trio stood for a few moments, wavering between looking out the porthole and looking at each other. The awkwardness hit just a few seconds before Ashley spoke up. Anyway, I figured this is where you wanted to hang out, so here you go, 2,000 fathoms. Give me a holler if you want to go deeper. Ashley walked to the ladder and disappeared through the hole in the ceiling. You're done. That was fun. Portholes. Ashley's inventions, too. Ashley's original ideas. Do not steal. Floor sweeper. My last experiment with the kitchen assistant V1 was a big success if you measure success in how quickly it was able to pulverize things generally. The throwing objects the ceiling technique does not work for pulverizing carrots or celery for salads, but it is very good at pulverizing halogen lamp bulbs. This made me think about how much better it would be if the floor were self-cleaning. Ashley can sweep up a bit, but usually all they do is move... Ashlings can sweep up a bit, but usually all they do is move dust around. It's hard to get them to actually collect debris and put it into the trash. The entire floor were covered with air jets. Any tiny bit of debris that dropped on the floor would get quickly whisked away towards a corner, where a vacuum or something could suck them up into a disposal chute. Having a bunch of air jets would require a lot of power to run, but air isn't the only fluid that you can use to carry dirt and dust and broken shards of halogen lamp bulbs. Water could probably also do the trick. The issue is that water would damage the floor. Ripping up the wooden floorboards and pouring concrete would solve the problem, and we could mold the concrete in a way that its shape directed the water towards a drain in the floor. This would mean no more need to sweep. We could just hose down the entire cafe at the end of the day, and it would drain itself. Then it would be dry by morning. That's actually a really good idea that doesn't require any special equipment or specialized hardware once the floor is installed. I should copyright that idea to make sure that no one steals it. Update. After several days of calling the Australian Copyright Council, I finally talked to a person who told me that what I want to cover inventions is a patent, not a copyright. After several more days trying to contact the patent office, I was told that somebody already used my idea. I wonder if it's possible to sue someone for stealing your ideas before you came up with it. It's pretty unfair that I'm not able to patent an idea just because I'm too young to have had the idea before someone else claimed it. Knife Retriever V2. Previously, I discarded the idea of using a large electromagnet to retrieve the knife that was lodged in the ceiling. My research has led me to believe that the knife in the ceiling is actually stainless steel, which contains iron. Iron is ferromagnetic, which is weird because you'd think that only ferro would be ferromagnetic, but I guess iron is too. Also, I was able to find a gas-powered generator that could supply enough power to run an electromagnet for a short period of time so I wouldn't have to worry about the circuit breakers. It requires a lot of gas, but luckily getting the knife down only required running the electromagnet for a short period of time. I created the electromagnet by spoiling a power cable around a piece of iron. The good news is that the electromagnet is great at pulling knives from where they are. The bad news is that it pulled all the knives from the drawer that were within a meter of it when I turned it on. Also, the knife in the ceiling wasn't effective because it was too far away. I looked it up, and magnetic attraction follows an inverse cube law. I'm not sure what the opposite of a cube is. Maybe it's a sphere? But the more I think about it, the more it makes sense that objects further away aren't pulled as strongly by the magnet. The Beseecher 5000. After my lack of success with the Knife Retriever V2, I asked Jay for help, and he lifted me up so I could pull the knife from the ceiling. So I was able to pull the knife from the ceiling. He asked how long it had been up there, and I said, not long, and he said, more than a day. And I said, oh, it wasn't up for a day, which is technically true. I'm glad that asking Shay for help succeeded, but I think in the future there needs to be a way to automate this process of asking Shay for help. I think I need to create a robot with speech capabilities that is capable of asking for favors. Then I could have the robot ask for favors on my behalf. I think it is a good idea because usually when you ask someone for a favor, then you owe them a favor afterwards. But if it were the robot asking for the favor, then the robot would owe the favor, not you. And then the person would ask the robot to do them a favor, and the robot would say, sorry, I'm only capable of talking to people, not doing tasks. Then the person would ask the robot to ask you for a favor, and the robot would say, I'm sorry, my battery is running low, and then it would self-destruct. It would be expensive to build a new robot every time you had to ask for another favor, but it would be better than having to owe someone a bunch of favors after they helped you out. I like these bits of the game, they're fun. Alright, let's see. What else? Alright. There we are. Tanqueray 10. Samantha sat alone at the bar, taking occasional sips from a glass of gin. She wasn't sure that tonight was a night she really wanted to be drinking, but the comforting familiarity of the gin kept her raising the glass to her lips. The drink didn't sit well in her stomach, but each sip left her feeling warm, and with each sip the knot in her stomach seemed to become less and less noticeable, and so she kept drinking. The green bottle had become something of a friend over the years, and with it she shared the kind of friendship born not out of any sort of affection so much as one of familiarity and convenience. Drinking the Tanqueray neat took her back to the first apartment she lived in after moving from her hometown in New Mexico, to the parts of Melbourne that bordered the docks, the same apartment where she discovered that liquor was vastly cheaper when bought by the bottle and when bought by the glass in the setting of a bar, and where she learned that the cinnamon and coriander gave the gin enough flavor without the need for mixers. The Tanqueray was her coming-of-age drink, and consequently, she enjoyed a private relationship with it. Most of the alcohol she consumed in the past year had been on the job, but gin was something that she kept hidden away at home for the private moments when it was only her, a green bottle, and an overwhelming sense of dread. Samantha emptied the glass and for a moment continued to hold the glass up to her mouth, looking down her nose at the bottom of the glass as if asking God for a sign that this was the time to stop drinking. She had no intention of stopping, but she figured it was worth giving the everlasting a chance to interdict if she was transgressing by drinking so heavily. No divine intervention came to stop her from raising her hand to signal Maddie for another drink. There was a small throbbing inside her ears. It seemed to think it was a bad idea, but she was sure that was just the result of hearing damage, and not the voice of God ringing in her ears. She was fairly sure she didn't believe in God, but something about her Catholic upbringing kept her occasionally checking in just to confirm that her suspicions that there wasn't anyone upstairs judging her on her hedonism. Still, if there was any time or place to question her lack of belief in God, a cafe that seemed to exist in the borderland between life and death seemed as good a place as any to do it. Her mother had told her that it was only by the grace of God that she walked the earth, and if it wasn't a force of God that kept this cafe's doors open, it was certainly something otherworldly. Oh, short. Alright, let's see. Oh. Letter from Sofia Cordova. My dear Maddie, thank you for getting in touch with me. Or perhaps I should say, congratulations. I make such a point of making myself hard to find that it's always a surprise to hear from anyone. I sometimes find myself fearing the day when I'll be contacted by someone who isn't a fan of mine and who is more interested in locking me away than seeking my advice. One might think that people interested in putting me away would be more capable and in possession of more resources than those like yourself who simply possess curiosity, and it's always the latter who manage to break through the veil I've erected between myself and the outside world. You're the first in over 3 years to manage this, and so it is now time for me to find another hiding place. If your next letter manages to find me, I'll truly have something to worry about. If you're looking for a solution to the problem you outlined in your letter, I'm afraid I must disappoint you. My business is that of teaching people how to ask the right questions so that they can find the answers themselves, not giving answers. After all, the most worthwhile answers are the ones I haven't found yet. That being said, your question about time transference is an issue of special interest to me. The idea of storing vitality within a living, non-sentient creature such as a plant is one that I've long considered. The issue has always been one of retrieval. If you did find a way to transfer vitality from a plant to a sentient creature, it would result in a tremendous discharge of energy. Such a great discharge that I'm sure it would kill whatever subject was on the receiving end. Absorbing life force from something doesn't seem that it would do much good if it kills you in the process. Consequently, I've never experimented with this process myself. Even if I had earned the reputation of being a rule breaker, there are certain things that are simply off limits. Your idea of using a non-living soul as the target for transference is an interesting one. No risk of killing the vitality recipient if it's already dead. Of course, that would require finding a way to infuse a non-living soul with vitality in the first place. And being that most reanimation techniques involve a significant discharge of energy, using the vitality transfer as a trigger would effectively be killing two birds with one stone. Of course, reanimation is a far cry from necromancy, but if your only problem is one of living on borrowed time, well, you know better than I do how to resolve the particulars. I'm an alchemist, not a necromancer. If I can offer you one piece of advice, these kinds of vitality transfers are not something to be experimented with. Any time that time is borrowed or lent, you are making an alteration to a ledger that the powers that be keep a very careful eye on. Even the smallest of disturbances is enough to attract their notice, and attracting their notice will put a quick end to any research you might be in the midst of. So if you're going to try vitality transfers, don't experiment. Go straight for the end goal. If you're going to catch the attention of those whose attention you do not want, make sure that the endeavor is worthwhile. If you have a good reputation, it would be a shame to squander it on something so trivial as allowing a mouse a few extra seconds on this side of mortality. As the saying says, as they say, go big or go home. I appreciate you taking the time to write to me. You've given me new things to pontificate on, and perhaps one day you may see the results of that pontification in one of my future volumes. Of course, it should go without saying that you won't be able to reach me again, at least not the same way you did before. I've been found, and that means I need to do a better job of covering my tracks. While I rationally hope that I'll never find myself in the position where a fan's letter finds me, there's always a part of me that hopes that one of my readers will manage to track me down. Who knows, perhaps the next letter I receive at my next residence will come from you. But I'm sure that you have better things to do with your time than try to track me down. There is a time to adopt the posture of a student and focus on learning, but it's obvious to me that you are someone who has spent plenty of time learning things and is now ready to do things. So do things, Maddie. Do big things, do dangerous things, do things that break the rules. Not all rules need to be broken, but if you're smart enough to find me, you're smart enough to know which rules are worth breaking. I'm grateful that it's always the reader mail that seems to find me, and never the demands to appear before some kind of tribunal or committee. I used to think that this was a long string of extremely good luck on my part, but over time I've come to realize that those who wish me gone lack the insight of the people who earnestly read my work, and readers such as yourself who are the only ones who truly know me well enough to understand how I think and where I would hide. Bravo, Maddie. You've demonstrated your ability to think like me. Now you must learn to think like yourself. Yours truly, Sofia Cordova. Aw, getting help from her idol. That's cute. a new person to talk to. Where are they? Not those two. I talked to them already. It's not Ashley. Oh, there we go. Devil's Den. So I'll do this, and that'll probably be the end of it for tonight, if it's as long as the last one was. I hate this job. Kiyoshi was angry. Samantha always found it difficult to see him like this. She felt his anger and his pain as if it were her own. They shared the hurt, a bond exclusive to them. But anger was also a form of passion, and Samantha considered Kiyoshi's passion one of his most admirable qualities. You know I hate it here too, but I can't walk away from this job. Neither of us can. You know, the stress is going to kill us one of these days. Stress won't be the thing that kills me. Don't say that. You're right. I'm sorry. I love you. I love you too. Stay safe. Samantha sat alone, nursing a glass of gin. The terminal had a warm atmosphere, a far cry from the immaculate, glitzy pub holic where she'd spent just shy of 6 months as a cocktail waitress. In fact, there was almost nothing in this cafe reminiscent of pub holic, which made it a perfect place to brood, with precious few reminders of her previous gig. There were, of course, the smells. She caught lingering scents as she leaned upon the spirit-stained bar, each one like a stain upon her own memory, a scar that would never heal. Not that she hadn't been left scarred by other jobs, but she resented the invisible stains left on her psyche by pubholic, the kind she couldn't hide with concealer and long sleeves. Still, there were a few pleasant memories buried beneath the pain. Memories of him. You want me to just leave the bottle here? No, I need to feel that tiny bit of shame when I ask for a refill. No shame in it? Well, there ought to be, because without it, I'd hit the bottom of that bottle pretty fast. You want me to stop you? Otherwise, you'll lose that shame soon enough. I'll burn that bridge when I get to it. Samantha liked Maddie. Part of it was the natural kinship she had come to feel from anyone whose profession involved pouring a drink. But Samantha also appreciated Maddie's extremely high level of disinterest in what was going on around her. She could tell from Maddie's eyes that she wasn't all there. Her attention was split between her patrons and some problem she was puzzling together in her head. In Samantha's opinion, patrons always got more attention than they deserved, and it seemed like Maddie agreed. They were perfectly content in their own solitude. Ellipses. Samantha? Is that you? Shock and awe. Samantha, I'd like to talk to you. Actually, this concerns the other girls too. Call them over, won't you? Nakamoto made the suggestion as if it had just occurred to him, but it was clear he didn't intend this to be a private conversation. The other servers were within earshot, close enough to hear Nakamoto's request, but he clearly wanted Samantha to beckon them over. She indulged him with the ritual of clapping her hands and calling out. Clara, Iris, Michelle, business time. As Samantha looked across the table at Nakamoto, she realized she stood between Nakamoto and the other girls like a protector, a shield. The role fitted her fine, and the other girls seemed grateful for it. But Samantha couldn't help but feel that this was exactly what Nakamoto wanted. Though he was one man facing 4 women, it felt to Samantha that their numbers were evenly matched. The women standing behind Samantha were not participants, they were mere bystanders. He evidently derived a lot of satisfaction from the fact that he never had to raise his voice. He had his subordinates do that for him. Exemplary work tonight. Mr. Canavan was very impressed. You girls did your job with precision and respect. I would expect nothing less. That deserves a bonus, don't you think? He reached into his pocket and pulled out 4 10,000 yen notes, fanning the bills out on an ashtray in front of him. There was only one problem. At the end of the meal, Mr. Canavan suggested that Claire give him a kiss. He got the impression she didn't enjoy it much. Her reaction soured the mood. Perhaps not her fault, but we are in the service industry. Our one job is to make clients happy. Samantha locked eyes with Nakamoto, willing him to concentrate his wrath entirely on her and away from the younger, inexperienced girl behind her. Based on that, do you think she should receive this 10,000 yen bonus? Samantha's heart broke for Clara. She would be complicit in Nakamoto's humiliation of her filled her with guilt. She kept a steely expression. As much as it bothered her to capitulate, Samantha knew that fighting with Nakamoto would only humiliate Claire further, so she gave the answer he wanted. No, she shouldn't receive the bonus. She knew how Nakamoto's little rituals worked, and she wasn't going to rock the boat. That could only make it worse for all of them. Is that so? Well, Samantha, that's what you believe? Samantha watched as Nakamoto sit at the edge of one of the bills alight. The fire rapidly spread until all 4 bills were engulfed. Samantha watched Nakamoto's smiling face through the dancing flames. This was a genuine smile. This was the part he enjoyed. My, what a terrible accident. You see, I only licked Clara's bill, and now everything's been reduced to ash. It's like service, you see. The rest of you provided perfect service for the entirety of the night, but it only takes one small mistake to ruin the entire experience for the client. What one of you does reflects on all of you, on this entire organization. This deserves punishment, don't you think? Then punish me. I was in charge of planning the event. Any shortcomings during the event are a reflection of my leadership. I take full responsibility. Samantha steeled herself for the slap she knew was coming. She would not flinch. Ugh. But the slap never came. It took all of Samantha's willpower to not shudder at his caress. The slap would have hurt less to endure. You're right. You should take responsibility. Punish her. Clara looked up at Samantha, eyes wet with unshed tears. Samantha's expression softened, and she tried to convey all the sympathy and compassion she could as she mouthed the words, I'm sorry. It's okay. Mr. Nakamoto, I'm surprised to see you here. Shall I, what can I get for you? She knows what I drink. You'll have a Manhattan. Do you have Abbott's? Of course. This is kind of a long shot. Do you have Hibiki? I reckon so, yeah. Let me go check in the back. Thanks, cutie. Charming girl. Nakamoto had a habit of describing people as he wanted them to be, rather than as they were. As if he thought calling a server charming was enough to make her want to live up to the description. Charming, but definitely not your type. How would you know? One thing, she's not subservient enough for your tastes. Unlike you, Samantha, I'm surprised you remember my name. You wound me. You know I always liked all the girls at the bar. Yes, you liked us all so much you gave us the same pet name. I always figured honey was just a more affectionate way of saying, hey you. Hey you? As in, hey, you over there. Ah, maybe you're right. But you were always my favorite, Samantha. Well, one of my favorites. She wasn't sure if that was meant to be a compliment. Given that Nakamoto seemed to prefer girls too inexperienced to avoid his advances, the implication she might be a favorite struck Samantha as insulting. You always did like the oblivious ones. Ah, Samantha, you know how the clan is. We wouldn't have hired you if I were a more sophisticated girl. No. Nakamoto seemed to think he was being subtle, but he was never very good at it. I presume the fact that none of the servers spoke Japanese wasn't an accident. Ah, what is the point in denying it now? Of course you understand now that all that was going on. You only paid in cash. Half your men showed tattoos every time they rolled up their sleeves. Of course I knew what was going on. But surely you didn't expect. I always knew it was a possibility. But nobody could have anticipated things happening like they did. It was never my intention. I tried to do the right thing. My intentions were good. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Samantha glanced across again at the white van parked across the road from the bar, then turned away to continue serving, barely noticing a man approaching the counter. A moment later, she tensed up and did a double take. There's something about the way the man walked. Men coming to see Nakamoto were always trembling, afraid. He looked too confident for a man about to talk to an infamous crime boss. That and the white van. It had been sitting there for the past 2 hours, and yet she hadn't seen anyone come out of the van the whole time. She turned towards the door as the man came in and realized he was suddenly flanked by several men on either side. Their chests were too thick for their stature, the kind of bulk that came from Kevlar undersuit jackets. Nobody move! Samantha found herself looking at a badge, a handgun, and several men holding what looked like military-grade submachine guns. Taro Nakamura, we have a warrant for your arrest. I'm Taro Nakamoto. Please, no need for the big guns. You're frightening them. He gestured to the cocktail waitresses hurtled behind the bar. Nakamoto stepped forward. He intended to turn himself in. His men watched in disbelief, but one by one they dropped their guns and held their empty hands up. Except for one. He was standing near the door, his right hand hovering at his hip. Gun! The young gangster who had drawn the gun crumpled as several shots rang out from the back of the room. Another one of Nakamoto's henchmen. Samantha hit the floor, crawling through the shattered fragments of the drink she dropped a moment ago. The roaring gunfire was so loud it physically hurt her ears. Within seconds, all she could hear was ringing. She kept crawling, trying to avoid the gunfire and stampeding crowd, when she found herself pressed against the side of the bar. Samantha looked up and made eye contact with Nakamoto just seconds before the bullets began to tear him apart. He crattered to the floor, and Samantha found herself face to face with a corpse. As her consciousness faded, 2 words escaped her lips. Fucking Yakuza. Of course you didn't mean for it to go down the way that it did. Nobody gets out of bed in the morning thinking, let's die today. I get up every morning prepared to die, but it's unfair of me to expect everyone around me to do the same. I'm sorry that you had to become involved. I knew that I was getting into. You never coerced me. I made the decision to be there. I made that decision every night I took those envelopes of money home with me. Don't be absurd. It was my fault entirely. There's no denying that. You weren't the one who pulled the gun. Yeah, but my man did, and his actions reflect on me. How can I claim to be the boss if I can't accept that? Regardless of who's to blame, we both ended up here. Yes, I suppose it is best to enjoy our time here while we still can. Samantha thought to herself that if her goal was to best enjoy her remaining time here, the first thing she would do would be to remove herself from Nakamoto's vicinity. Her distaste for the man had far less to do with the day they were discussing the months leading up to it. In fact, the way Nakamoto had handled the situation was one of the most decent things he'd ever done, insofar as a crime boss's behavior can be considered decent. Samantha had spent enough time pretending she didn't mind working under him in the past that navigating this conversation took little effort. Now, there was nothing that made her feel bound to keep talking to this man, a sense of obligation to keep up appearances. There was only one thing keeping her in this seat, listening to Nakamoto, a need for answers. Sorry, I didn't find any hibiki back there. Found some Shibumaru, though, so that's what you're getting. What a treat. Thank you, Miss Maddie. Thank you, Miss Maddie. I drink these slow, but I hope you'll have another one ready by the time I finish this one. You know, I forbade my men to drink our rival's whiskey. For me to drink it myself would be hypocritical. And yet, here you are. Nobody's watching you, so I don't think you have to worry about that now. Except for you. Well, I won't tell. Besides, you are the boss. In that case, perhaps there are pleasures which we are allowed to enjoy in death. We are only allowed to enjoy in death. This guy's shitty pencil mustache is killing me. It's very good. It may be my deceased condition that makes it so, but I would be a liar to claim this isn't the best drink I've ever had. Forbidden fruit is always the sweetest. Had I tasted this drink years ago, perhaps we could have ended our turf war on more amicable terms. I find it hard to resent men who make such fine whiskey. He started laughing, and Samantha joined him, more out of practiced reflex than shared mirth. Nakamoto placed his hand on her leg. She didn't flinch, but she looked at him with just the right amount of withering contempt to make him withdraw his hand. You're a very powerful woman, from the lips of the notorious Yakuza boss to the ears of the tittering cocktail waitress. You have an aura about you. Even when you served drinks, you had a dominant energy. Everyone in the room always respected you. I wanted to make you mine. So why didn't you? Because if I had taken you, I would have destroyed the very thing I admired about you. I wanted you to come to me willingly. And you thought I would? If I'm being honest, yes, you seem like the type of man who'd be drawn to men of power. I don't particularly find power that impressive when it's measured in numbers of dollars laundered. Power, not money. You do crave power. I could always see it in your eyes. And yet somehow I managed to resist your charms. Nakamoto smiled at Samantha, having completely missed the cutting sarcasm of her remark. Besides, I didn't move to the city expecting to find love, especially not among the ranks of a crime syndicate. No, but you found it anyways. You're right. What was his name? You know his name. Yes, but I want to hear you say it. Kiyoshi. Kiyoshi, what's wrong, baby? Don't worry. Your heart is beating so fast. Something's bothering you. You know how I am. My heart always starts racing whenever I'm in bed with a beautiful woman. Stop it. What's really happening? I shouldn't tell you. And we shouldn't be together right now. That hasn't stopped us. It's Nakamoto-san. He has eyes for you. You think I don't know that? Anyone can tell by looking at him. I'm worried that he will try to take you away from me. I won't let him. I can look out for myself. That is what bothers me. One day Nakamoto will try to take you, and you won't let him. Nakamoto does not take kindly to being snubbed. Let me deal with that. I hate that man. Shh, don't say that. Why shouldn't I say it? I hate him. Anyone could be listening. If the walls have ears, then let them hear. How can you stand it, serving him every day from under his oppressive thumb? I do it the same way you do, one day at a time. My father told me that Nakamoto was a despicable man. I should have listened to him. I feel it deep in my soul, Samantha. If we stay here, bad things will start to happen. We're good at surviving bad things. Not like this. There's some things you can't survive. There are some things you need to run away from. You know we can't do that. There may be a way. What are you saying? Samantha, before I tell you, I need to know. Will you come with me? What are you planning? Tell me first. If I do this, we can never come back to this city. Will you come with me? Will you leave them behind? Nakamoto is not the kind of man you can simply walk away from. He will be when I am done. Samantha, tell me now. Will you come with me? I can't. Of course you can. The question is, will you? Kiyoshi. His name was Kiyoshi. Carrying boxes. Going around the store. You're not like the others. Samantha regarded the young cocksure man standing before her. One of Nakamoto's men. She knew his name was Kiyoshi. Samantha, of course, made a point of memorizing the names of all the men who worked under Nakamoto. But she was aware admitting she knew who he was would be taken as a sign of flattery, so she played dumb. I'm sorry, you're one of Nakamoto's men, right? Why do you say that? Do that. Play dumb. You know I'm one of Nakamoto's men. You know my name. Not everyone knows your name. You're right. In fact, very few people do. I am not as memorable as some of my peers, but you remember my name regardless. Ellipses. You know everyone else by name. There's not a chance you don't know who I am. I'm forgetful. Funny. You always seem to remember people's names when it's important. What are you saying? I'm saying that you seem to enjoy privately embarrassing Nakamoto's men while having the good sense to never publicly humiliate them. Ellipses. I'm not bothered by it, if that's what you're wondering. But you're a lot more clever than you allow others to believe. That makes two of us. She was beginning to think that the soft-spoken Kiyoshi was a lot more attentive than any of Nakamoto's henchmen were, and that made her uneasy. But she knew that he had already gotten whatever he wanted from this conversation. We're not so different, you and I. I disagree. She didn't need to list the various ways in which they differed in both station and demeanor. Perhaps you're right. You have the courage to show the men how little you care for them. I lack that courage. But it's clear that you and I both feel the same way about them. Either way, you're not like the others. I was wondering if you'd ever notice. I always liked to like Kiyoshi. He always bowed when he needed to, always said the right things, but he showed contempt with every bow, every action. It was a way of insulting you, even as he delivered a compliment, very against what I usually look for in my men. But he had courage, determination, moxie. I can see why a woman like you would be attracted to him. I was worried about him, but I knew that he was destined to do great things. Who knows? Perhaps one day he could replace me. Who will replace you? Who can say? Many of my lieutenants were there that day, my right and left hands. And all the time that she had known him, Nakamoto had never been a man to lean. He always stood stiff as a board, his spine so rigid it seemed he was afraid it would snap if he allowed it to bend even the slightest. That rigid posture, along with his platform heels, allowed Nakamoto to pass for several inches taller than he really was. Samantha had suspected it was his attempt to make himself seem more physically imposing, but to her it always had the opposite effect, making him appear comically uncomfortable in his own body. Then again, Nakamoto was never a man who had coveted luxury for himself, so perhaps his self-inflicted discomfort was in character, and that made his physical relaxation so unsettling. This was the side of Nakamoto that she had never seen, but perhaps this side would be willing to talk. How many people do you suppose died in that pub? Perhaps a better question would be who managed to survive. Perhaps they're like us, waiting to walk through that door. Perhaps that would be a better fate for them, and who survived will surely be arrested. After all, if I had been arrested, I would not be here enjoying this very fine whiskey. Maybe they escaped. I doubt that very much. Yakuza do many things. Running is not one of them. Besides, have you seen Kojiri? That man is too fat to outrun anyone. Excuse me. Samantha, you don't have to keep pretending. I know you don't like me. My men always told me that it was just your Western manner of flirting, that you were teasing, playing at being hard to get, but I knew contempt when I see it. You think I held you in contempt? No, I was speaking of the men who offer me false flattery. You don't like me. Ellipses. But who can blame you? It is the nature of hierarchy. Hatred for the organization is always directed upward. It is healthy and natural, is it not? Better resent the people above you than resent the people working next to you. It is, in a way, a powerful tool for bonding. It is something that you all went through together, and that made you closer, did it not? I never really became close friends with any of the other girls. No, I thought not, but I wasn't talking about them. You know who I'm talking about. Nakamoto is part of a dying generation. I'm pretty sure that's how all generations work. They have to die sometime. They make room for new generations. This generation of Yakuza will not die out. It will be chased out. It is a slow-moving organization. Everything about it from the inside out is based on an old way of doing things that is rapidly becoming not only outdated, but painful to look at. The premise of a clan is founded on the expectation that all its members will be members for life, bound to each other in the organization. Death is the only solution. Kiyoshi, you don't mean to... This whole organization needs to die, though it will take 10 years of my life along with it. It has given me something that I hate, and yet I can't bring myself to give it up. In a way, it has become a part of me. You are not your job. Nakamoto would disagree. So would my parents, including my uncle, who is a police. Things are different for you, but where I am from, this is true of any sort of institution or organization. The first 10 or 20 years that you spend in an organization are not truly spent doing anything of substance. The purpose of your first decade is your training to be a member of the clan. Sounds like an extensive training program. I didn't realize the Yakuza valued training and education so highly. It's not a training program as you imagine it. Most of it is being subjected to artificial hardship to demonstrate you are trustworthy and loyal to the clan. Many of these hardships are designed to be humiliating or otherwise damaging. This is not an overlooked flaw of the initiation process. It is intentionally that way by design. Like hazing. Hazing? It's a practice for initiating people into social groups. It's not just a Yakuza thing, I assure you. You do this in your home country? I was hazed several times in college. Sororities, honor societies, that sort of thing. Organizations addicted to the old way of doing things. I suppose so. Hazing is a torch passed on from one generation to the next. I suppose the upside is you get a bunch of loyal foot soldiers. The upside is you get a large number of people who will only perpetuate the institution, complete with all its flaws. You need to find a way to clear the ranks, burn it all down to the ground. Start from scratch. Better yet, burn it all to the ground and leave it smoldering. I wish I could. And yet there's something deep in me that would hate to see it go, so... I know how much you hate Nakamoto. But, you see, I don't. Even if I wanted to hate him, I cannot. The kind of loyalty that's built up over many years, it does not go away simply because you wish it to. That is the insidious thing about this organization. It changes you, even as you realize what it is doing to you, even as you hate it. For me, to say that I hate Nakamoto would be the same as saying that I hate what I become. It is not something I say easily, even though it may be true. You are not like Nakamoto. I wish what you say was true. You're right. Kiyoshi hated you. Did he tell you that? Samantha didn't bother to answer Nakamoto's question. She hated rhetorical questions with a passion. Several moments of silence later, she noticed Nakamoto fidgeting. Nakamoto was a man who carried himself with an undue amount of pomp, and it was not easy to make a man that straight-laced fidget. She took a certain amount of pleasure in his visual discomfort. The thought occurred to her that the way she tried to get a certain reaction from Nakamoto was not so different from his habit of dominating conversations, but she justified this to herself easily. The worst thing about Nakamoto was that he was a poor steward of power. He diminished the power of others because he enjoyed taking for himself, and he correctly perceived it to be a zero sum. Samantha didn't crave power, but she very much enjoyed seeing Nakamoto being brought down a few notches, even if only for a moment. Of course, he told you all the ways he despised me in my old ways. That's how every passionate relationship begins, is it not? The strongest bonds are not built out of mutual respect, but out of a shared hatred for something or someone. So of course he would pick me as the object of ire to win you over. Kiyoshi was a very shrewd man. He always had a talent for getting exactly what he wanted. You don't know the first thing about what kind of man Kiyoshi was. He's far more dangerous than he looks. I don't carry a gun. Too dangerous. Not when you know how to use one. I don't mean dangerous to safety. Dangerous to get caught with. Guaranteed jail time and a conviction. And yet somehow all your friends seem to deal with it. Colleagues, not friends. So how come they bear the risk of getting caught with a firearm and you don't? I need to stay clean. The clan has many properties in my name. If I were caught carrying a firearm, it would defeat the purpose. I didn't realize that you had an ownership stake in the clan. Technically, I do. But do you think that I actually see any of the money that passes through my establishments? They use my name, but I have no power. If you ever try to leave, yes, you can now understand why things are so complicated. Even if I leave, I will still carry the taint of association. There's no avoiding it. Why you? Why not do it under someone else's name? I may have lied to you before. Ellipses. I told you, I don't carry a gun because there are many properties under my name. They need someone who looks squeaky clean. Squeaky clean? Someone with a spotless record. Perfect, free of imperfections. That's me, Mr. Spotless. Though I don't think that anyone in the clan would describe me that way. I'm actually very far from perfect. I'm just the man that they needed. I think you're what I need too. What does that mean? You may not be perfect, but you're what I'm looking for right now. You don't want to be tied up with me. I can't endure these circumstances. How could I expect you to do the same? You need to escape. It's too late for me, but not for you. It's not too late. I have nowhere to turn to. I've been thinking of going to the police. Kyoshi looked at her with pained eyes, finally unable to say anything more. Finally, Samantha spoke up. Are you going to? No deal. They would not be able to make a deal without me agreeing to testify against him, and that is something I cannot do, not without fearing for my own life. No matter where Nakamoto is, he will find me. Even dead, his ghost would haunt me. My only option is to disappear. My own crimes are far too great to be forgiven, even if I do betray Nakamoto. Besides, I cannot trust the police. If there was even one corrupt officer who allowed my name to escape, Nakamoto has one principle and one principle. Dead men can't talk. There are always more options. You're right. I could inform the police anonymously. Send them to where they can confront one of Nakamoto's deals directly. I know where he's having one of his business meetings, but it won't be pretty. He's the only person I can tell this to. Because when the police finally catch up with him, people will die. And I don't want you anywhere near there when that happens. Can you promise me this? Kiyoshi, I need to tell you something. You can't go to the police. Tell me why I shouldn't. You'll ruin everything. This life is already ruined. The best I can hope for now is a chance at atonement. This may not make things better, but I cannot think of how they would continue any worse I cannot think of how they would become any worse with me to continue to serve under that. Please, Kiyoshi. I have a plan to subvert Nakamoto. All the more reason for me to go to the police. I can't allow you to be the one to run into harm's way. You don't understand. This will work. You think you're the first one to think about taking Nakamoto down? People much stronger than you, people much more well-connected have tried it before. How could you possibly succeed where they have failed? Okay. Here we go. Kiyoshi, you were right. I am not like the others. There's something very different about me. Tell me. Well, you believe that you know Kiyoshi better than I do. You're welcome to think that. Though I don't see how that could possibly be the case. I've spent more than a decade with that man. He was never just a servant to me. Not even close. The boss must hold the respect of his men. It was a powerful bond. Nakamoto sounded frustrated, but his voice grew increasingly soft. Do you believe that your months-long fling with him really meant more than that? Do you really have the ability to look into a man's eyes, to peer into his soul and sense his true desires and motives? You're truly a fool if you believe that. Samantha found herself taken aback by Nakamoto's aggressive speech. For a moment she thought that perhaps Nakamoto was right, that she didn't have the soul to read on him. But as the moment passed, she came to an infuriating realization. Nakamoto pitied her. Do not underestimate me. And she felt the words leaving her lips, she found herself instantly regretting it. There's no faster way to lose respect than to demand it like a petulant child. She feared a weak and desperate trait she saw mirrored in the man sitting across from her. Nakamoto only wanted to toy with her. She needed a punch to throw him off guard, something unexpected. She needed to tell the truth. I hate you. I'm not surprised to hear that you feel that way. It does, however, surprise me to hear you say it out loud. I don't think you understand the extent of it. I detest you, not for what you did to me, but for what you did to everyone who worked under me. If you hate me so much, why don't you just kill me? You are already dead. You never understood, but I did. Every single word you spoke in every single one of your business meetings. I wasn't the dumb little American girl you thought I was. Part of me always thought that a girl like you seemed too sophisticated to be a simple drink server. So, who are you reporting to? Police? Give yourself more credit. It's not just the cops who got their eyes on you. And give me some more credit. I was no mere informant. So what are you? CIA. Part of a 2-year investigation. So you were out to get me from the start, were you? Are you happy you finally brought me down? Happy that you put me in a body bag? It was a job. I did my duty. I'm sure that as a career criminal you can relate. You don't always get to do the thing you want to do. Sometimes you do the thing that has to be done. So everything went all according to your plan. Not all according to plan. The part where bullets started flying and I ended up here, that definitely wasn't part of the plan. I expected that you'd try to end things peacefully. Well, I guess things went wrong for both of us. And here we are, doomed to enjoy the same fate. Well, since you've been so generous in sharing your secret with me, I suppose I should respond in kind. Samantha, I'm not Nakamoto. Samantha sat stunned. She had on occasion considered the possibility that Nakamoto might merely be a figurehead, that he might just be a middle manager in a larger organization. But all the important meetings had always taken place at Pubholic. She hadn't been party to every discussion or meeting, but she knew it was the place where decisions were made. If the man sitting in front of her wasn't the true boss, then it must have been someone else in that room. I'm his henchman. I exist solely for one purpose, for the day that when someone tries to kill Nakamoto or worse, they will get me instead. I assure you, the real boss is safe and sound by now. He's probably on a boat out of the country as we speak. She knew the real ringleader must have been one of the men who sat in the meetings of Pubholic. Every face she had recognized had been there on the day of the CIA crackdown. It had been scheduled during a meeting. Even if Nakamoto wasn't the true ringleader, the ringleader by now had been arrested, if not one of the men shot to death. All of your men were there when the police showed up. No one could have escaped arrest, or worse. There was one who was absent. Nakamoto. Sorry, I guess I shouldn't call you that. Do you have a real name? I suppose there's no harm in discussing it now. My name is Kiyoshi. Yes, I stepped into Nakamoto's shoes, and in turn he stepped into mine. A simple switcheroo. How embarrassing for you. So that means the real Nakamoto. For me to say that I hate Nakamoto would be the same as saying that I hate what I've become. The real Nakamoto. Yes, your lover boy was really the big villain you hoped to take down. Samantha reeled. Physical fatigue, anxiety, panic. Those are the things she had learned to stave off long ago. Nakamoto wasn't sharp enough to realize just how rare it was for Manza to find herself dizzied like this. But he did know that he had gotten a reaction out of her. You know you're probably dead right now because of him. I bet that kid in the bar pulled the gun on Kiyoshi because the real Nakamoto told him to. You may be right. Perhaps he left me to die. But then, that is my job as a decoy, to be ready to die when the boss requires it. In fact, he warned me it might be happening. I spoke with him before. He told me you gave him immunity. Mr. Big Bag, never to see trial. That's not how it works. He can still be charged. But who will charge him? Why would they charge a small fry like Kiyoshi? As far as everyone was concerned, the big bad boss is now dead. Most of the potential witnesses, too, I imagine. One of Namako's most greatest strengths was his ability to project a veneer of stoicism. He was always the sort of man that expressed his power subtly, never flexing, always taking pride and never raising his voice. But in this moment, he was reveling. He had nothing to gain and nothing to hide, and he was clearly enjoying watching Samantha squirm. She saw no reason to continue obliging him. Samantha didn't bother to look behind her to see if he was following. He desperately wanted to continue enjoying his victory, and Samantha wouldn't turn around to give it to him. Samantha. And calling out to her, it was practically an admission to defeat on his part. He needed her to see that he was victorious in order to enjoy the moment. A small, petty man obsessed with status, so obsessed in the pursuit of it he had given up the only remaining standing he had left. And so Samantha couldn't resist succumbing to the same temptation. You have lost everything. The one you thought you could trust betrayed you, and no one will be around to avenge the betrayal. No one outside this place will ever know of it. I know of at least one person who will. Oh? Kiyoshi. Did I ever say I was dead? Thanks for the little tip about Nakamoto. I'm sure he'll never believe how I found out about his identity. What was it he said to me? The dead can't talk? Maybe he needs to rethink that. She started to turn around, but the one thing that stopped her was the look in his eyes. The look of someone who was finally unhinged and realized that he had truly had nothing less to lose, not even his own dignity. It was the look of a man who was ready to fight. Samantha had spent 6 months working under the man she knew as Nakamoto, observing him as he did business at myriad parties. Before, she thought she knew what it meant to see him angry in the moment when he flexed his power over his underlings. She thought she knew what a wrathful Nakamoto looked like. She realized now that the anger she'd seen from him previously was simply cold, calculated malice. This was rage. He came at her with a flailing, amateurish punch. His arms were longer than hers, but she trained for this. Samantha drove her fist into his chest. Against a being of flesh and blood, this would have been an instant knockout. And Nakamoto didn't even register the hit. Samantha watched as he lunged downward, his hands reaching for her throat, waiting for the last possible moment to kick him away. Samantha heard an unpleasant crunch as his hand bore the full weight of his fall. A crunch, but no howl of pain. He was already up, his hands quickly erasing any sign that had sustained the fall. You! It was only the inertia of her kick that had forced him back, and once he regained his footing, he came at her again. Samantha couldn't stop Nakamoto in hand-to-hand combat. The cafe's enchantments kept customers' bodies intact as best it could. But as with everything that stood in Samantha's way, she found a workaround. She drew her piece, a Pieta revolver with a wooden grip. Her gun's brass construction recalled an era where steel was scarce and superstition, a fear of ghosts, was anything but. It was no coincidence that the black powdery weaponry of the 19th century was perfectly built for causing real, tangible harm to wayward spirits. She let out a yell and pushed the weapon into his chest, unloading the shot. By the time the .44 round passed through him, his body was already stitching itself back together. But the black powder from the gun's discharge remained inside him. He howled in pain as his body tried to reconstitute itself around his fatal chest wound. His flesh was in constant war, trying to warp itself to cover the hole and flinching away from the sulfur powder that was beginning to seep deeper and deeper into his body. How? Nakamoto. No, Kiyoshi. Did you think you were here, but we met here by accident? Did you think I had to come prepared? Ellipses. He tumbled to the ground and rolled over on his side, trying to get up on his one good leg. You style yourself a prince of thieves. He fell to the ground in a slump, raised his one good arm, and reached up to her like an animated corpse, trying to take the living with him. But now you'll die like a dog. Goodbye, Kiyoshi. Go to hell. I'm done. You need any materials extracted? Just my .44. I'm taking a commercial flight out. Why can't you just use standard equipment like the rest of us? Tell me which part of my job description includes the word standard. Abnormal jobs call for abnormal equipment. Life would be easier if you didn't have such specific taste in guns. Believe me, nothing about this is about my taste in guns. This thing is a brute of a weapon. Poor construction, nearly impossible to grip, and a recoil shield that's not worth a damn. It's the only gun that makes you feel like your hand are somehow too big and too small at the same time. It bucks like a motherfucker, it's single action, you have to flip the hammer with every shot, and it was on the wrong side of one of the bloodiest wars in world history. I hate this gun. So why use it? It carries a stink of slave owners and sulfur with it wherever it goes. I hate it. Spirits hate it even more. Like oil and water? More like a fatal allergic reaction. If you ever need to bring a walker to its knees, bring a black powder revolver. I think I'll leave that to you. I have some important information about the informant. Kiyoshi? Yeah, but that's not his real name. I would have figured. Do you know where he is? Did someone get to him? What? He somehow vanished off our radar this morning. I was worried someone had taken him out. He disappeared? Yes, did Nakamoto tell you anything about that? Ellipses. Hello? Question mark. No, everything went exactly as planned. Just need to get rid of some dead wood. Exclamation mark. No, I'm working on something new. Question mark. Rebuilding. Woo! Is there more, or is that the end of it? Oh, that was fun. I wonder if we'll get more of that one. That was interesting. Kind of want to know what happens next, even if not sure there's really a conclusion or a part 2 to that kind of story. Alright, it is almost 9:45. Playing for about an hour and a half. So I'll save at the start of the next section, and we'll call it a night. What do you think, guys? Alright, so we're in part 6 of 9. And it looks like we've done both of the side stories, so we got about 3 more sections to get through. So we might actually finish this sometime in the next couple of weeks, depending on how long they are. I hope you all had fun. I will see you next Tuesday when we're playing some more Necrobarista. And until then, you have a good rest of your week, and you have a good weekend, and I will catch you on the flip side. Rock on, Boston. Rock over, Chicago. Good night.